here at Oxfam Australia is Food Justice Program Coordinator. I'm not actually going to talk too much about my job or the way I think I see my job today. I'm going to talk more about myself, so you can know me, and also some interests that I have that may relate hopefully to your work as well. So you see me not just as this guy, that works with food justice, but maybe someone else. I sit, if you want to find me, I sit up next to the men's toilets on level 1. So just follow your nose, basically, and you'll find me. Okay, firstly, a little bit about myself. I grew up in near Mildura in northern Victoria. I had a learning disability growing up. They didn't know what it was at the time, just that I wasn't being able to read and I couldn't do maths very well. But the reason why I put this picture up is this is the first book I read, The Cat in the Hat. I read it just as I was about to go into high school when I was 12. So it took me maybe 6 years behind what most kids were doing to be able to read. I don't think I'd actually be doing the work I'm doing if I didn't have this disability when I was younger, because I had to learn to socialise and relate to people and talk to people and be part of a community. And there's two things that taught me, I suppose, this experience was that first of all, that challenged the status quo. So the status quo of just sitting in school reading and so on, is this what everyone should be doing? Is another way of communicating? Is another way of working? And I suppose I found myself quite comforted by the fact when I went to work in development, and especially went to places like Tanzania, which I'm quite familiar with, that many other people didn't read like me, that many people communicated through verbal or through stories. And it started making me thinking about the development organisations, and that we're also complicit or implicit in the post-colonial, I suppose, division of power between those that have and those that don't have, I suppose, power. And one of those divisions is using written documents. Colonial powers, they often, when in Tanzania, East Africa, they often produced many documents to say that they were part of, they were being democratic and so on. But they would just give the documents out to communities and expect them to give input. They didn't give input, and they said, look, we've shared information, so this is the way it works. And I felt that I related to that quite well. So questioning the status quo is really important to me. But then the second thing I thought of, well, coming from where I've come from, I'm quite privileged, having a family supporting me and allowing me to become who I am. I need to play a part in showing there's alternatives to what's out there, rather than just saying, oh, poor me, this is the way it is. So I suppose one of the things I wanted to talk about was that, from a vulnerable spot, and being vulnerable for me is part of, I suppose, the human nature. Showing that you have a disability or showing that you have problems with your work, you can I suppose, come to do good things. Unfortunately, development like, say, a World Vision commercial, like the organisation I worked for previously, I can say they preyed really on the disability and the pity side of things, rather than actually saying there's some great things that can come from vulnerable spots. But today I'm hoping to show you that some good things come from some vulnerable spots, and that you can do some amazing things. What I'm going to do is try and download a movie. I'm not sure how the internet connection is here, but this is a movie taken from a time when I was in India last year, and basically what I was supposedly trying to do actually was I did field reports. So when I went to different places, I made field reports on my visits, and I also encouraged the staff that were working with me in the field, especially for my own needs, to make their own movies, so that I can, instead of reading long documents when they send reports to me, I could actually see what's going on through movies. I might stop there. So it goes on basically. It's just a field report for a campaign that we're running, and I've done a number of those now. That movie itself was only intended, and nearly every movie I've made actually is only for internal audiences. Let me give you some of the top 8 tips I have as an amateur. Dustin might have some other ones later on, but this is from my experience from the sort of 15 or so movies I've made so far. The first one is informed consent. This is my wife. She's in her Friday gear with lovely socks on, and she's basically telling me if I put this photo on Facebook, I'm in big trouble. And I did. And so If you're not careful, you end up in hot water like I did after this picture we put on Facebook. So informed consent is my number one tip. At the same time, though, a lot of people use that as an excuse not to do anything. I think there is always an ethical discussion to be had and ways to do things, but sometimes people think, oh, it's too difficult, so I won't do anything. We'll just continue writing our documents and sending them. The second one I wanted to say was, well, the reason why I wanted to start making films was I came from a point of inspiration. I felt like I was seeing some things that I thought other people should see, and I need to be able to share it in some way that was visual and captive rather than just a boring document that most people just file away in their documents. So I lived a lot in East Africa and was working with some pretty amazing people, and so I thought that, you know, if I came from a point of inspiration, that it would help other people be interested in what I'm filming about. And without that inspiration, I have to say, I've tried to make some other documents just based on a request, and those films have only been seen a couple of times because people can tell straight away when you're not really interested in your subject matter. This picture's taken me gander. The third point I would make is, you know, don't get carried away with having to have the high-tech gear that you should have. Just use whatever you've got. My first movies were done using the cameras I found in some of the community organisations' drawers that I just found lying around. Some of them weren't in great shape, but still I could still use them. And in fact, some of them were even taught me things about filmmaking that helped me a lot to become a better filmmaker. So, for example, the first film I made was made just on this 1 GB memory stick. And I started filming and I realised, because I don't know about these things, I ran out of space really quickly. So I had to be really disciplined about, okay, I can't just film everything now, I have to think about what I'm filming. And so with that 1 GB, I had to really think about, okay, I'm going to take this shot, I'm going to take that shot, take this shot, and I constructed a movie using just that 1 GB memory stick on this old digital camera. And yeah, the film turned out okay. So yeah, get involved and use what you've got, even your mobile phones are great. But although I say get involved and everything, does anyone know who this guy is? Jim Jarmusch, yeah, one of my favourite directors. And it always helps, of course, to get tips from the pros who actually know what they're doing. Probably the thing that made my life the easiest and the most useful is this little thing. It's the matrix I used to set up. As I said, with the first experience I had, I only had 1 GB, so I had to really be thinking about my shots. But after that, when I got the flip camera and I was at 8 GB, I was filming all kinds of material. And some of the movies I was making in the beginning, sometimes it took me up to 2 days to edit when I got back from the material I had, and it was just, you know, you don't have that time, especially when I was trying to encourage a lot of the field staff to do this sort of stuff. They're going to have to not just film, but also then put it into a package that we can understand, but also that doesn't take too much of their time. So coming out with a matrix like this was really really useful for me. Basically what it is, it's sort of, before I went out, I thought about, and it's also very important I set up for monitoring and evaluation. So these questions are actually set up by monitoring and evaluation people, the questions, in the last thing there. And so basically I had the subject, who I was going to film when I was out there, and then I gave myself a location, so I thought about what the location would be good for it, so I sort of knew what I was looking for when I was filming. And the fourth one is the questions to ask. And again, they can be just open if you just want to have a general conversation with them. But I actually structured these so we could actually ask these questions every 3 months. And then we sort of had a way of storing information. So every 3 months, the same people were interviewed and they went back and we saw changes in their responses over time. So it's used as a monitoring evaluation tool that was very effective. But again, just to set up your editing, especially if you have this, then your editing time is a lot easier. You'll still have times when you go, oh, that's really interesting, and you go for those things, and that's great. But if you have a general structure, I found it really helped me. This one is basically encouragement to, you know, if you want to. I was involved with film people for years before I actually made my own film. I was getting people coming down from Europe to come and do education classes with the communities I was working with, and that was great. But I always just felt really like, you know, I can't do this. This is too difficult for me to do this. But the minute I actually had a go at doing it, it was an amazing experience of being able to feel empowered. First of all, you have a great respect for those people who do know what they're doing, because then you realise how difficult it is to really make a good movie. The second thing though is you realise you can do something though. To the point that you feel so empowered, you start filming everything. My wife's pregnant, we're having a baby soon, and she's sick of this because I'm filming everything at the moment. She's telling me to go away, so she wished I never picked up a camera. But having a go, just getting over that confidence thing of saying, even if it doesn't work out to make a movie when you get back from a trip or whatever you want to do, even if you film something, you just have a play around. It was a big step for me anyway, just to do it myself. Also, another thing for me was actually putting it out there. Once you've filmed it, you think, oh, this is not that good, is it? Oh, it's got to show people. And yeah, I'd say put it out there, but don't put it out to the whole universe. Just put it out to a few people that you might want to have feedback from. And that has to do with all kinds of important and not important things. Some of the important things are things you might have not thought about in relation to content that are very sensitive, and you didn't realise it until later on. And go, well, you realise in that political context this could mean this, and this, gee, I'm glad you show that to anyone else. So, especially when you start to get your style right and everything, just pick a few people that you want to get feedback from, and so don't just start splitting all over Facebook and YouTube everywhere. I did do that, and I learned from my mistakes of doing that, and luckily no one got hurt because of it. But yeah, put it out there, but don't put it out too far to start off with. And the final one was is to live and learn, I suppose. You're not going to make it perfect, but even after making about 15, 16 movies I've made now, I'm getting better at every time I do it. I think anyway. And it's really good to share this. We had organised World Vision. I inspired a couple of other people like me who were going out a lot to film, and I did that. And we had a film festival where we all brought our films together, and we had a social event. And sat around and watched the movies, and we gave out a Stuart Award and stuff like that for different categories. But it was kind of fun to share, and we gave sort of fun feedback to each other's films. Some criticism, saying maybe you could think about this next time. Some was, that was really good, how you did that, and couldn't have never done it otherwise. So they're the 8 top tips I've got.